There are moments in life when the wisest thing you can do is to say nothing at all. Not because you're afraid, not because you don't care, but because you've learned that silence, true intentional silence, can speak louder than any argument, any defense, or any burst of emotion. We live in a world that constantly urges us to speak up, to share our opinions, to react, to respond, to fill the space. But the Stoics, they remind us of something different, something powerful. That restraint is a form of wisdom. That silence is not emptiness, but space. Space for clarity, for perspective, and for peace. Think about the last time you held your tongue, even when you were burning to speak. Maybe it was during an argument. Maybe it was when someone misunderstood you. Or maybe it was when the truth just didn't need to be said, at least not yet. In those moments, you may have felt invisible, passive, weak. But what if that silence was actually your strength? What if being silent doesn't mean you're losing, but rising above? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Sometimes the most powerful way to be one is in the quiet choice to hold your peace. In this video, we'll explore 7 moments when silence is not just appropriate, it's essential. Moments where choosing to stay silent may protect your energy, elevate your character, and allow you to live with deeper clarity and grace. Not because you're ignoring the world, but because you've chosen to master yourself first. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Stay silent. When you don't understand yourself. Yet sometimes, the loudest noise in your life is the one inside your own head. You feel something is off. You react quickly. You speak without thinking. You explain, defend, justify. But deep down, you're not even sure why you're feeling what you're feeling. You haven't made peace with it yet. You haven't understood yourself fully, and still, the words pour out. But here's the truth you may already feel, quietly beneath the surface. You do not owe the world your voice until you've listened to your soul first. When you're confused, when your heart is heavy and your thoughts are tangled, that is not the time to speak. That is the time to be still, to be silent, to let your emotions settle like dust in sunlight until you can see clearly again. Because if you speak before you understand yourself, your words won't come from truth. They'll come from fear, from wounded pride, from old patterns you haven't outgrown yet. And they will echo in ways you didn't intend, hurting others, or worse, hurting you. There is deep courage in admitting, "I don't know what I feel yet." There is wisdom in holding your voice until your heart is ready to speak with honesty. Not polished, not perfect, just real. You've been taught that silence is weakness. That saying nothing means you're losing, but that's not true. Silence, when chosen with intention, is one of the greatest acts of strength you can practice. It's the space where self-awareness grows. It's the quiet where clarity is born. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke." But how can you revoke your interpretation if you haven't paused long enough to see what it really is? When you feel emotionally overwhelmed, don't rush to explain yourself to others. Don't rush to speak just to fill the air. Give yourself permission to not know, to sit in that discomfort, to let the silence speak back to you. Sometimes you'll discover that your anger was actually sadness, that your frustration was fear, that your defensiveness was a cry for understanding. You can't fix what you don't understand, and you can't understand what you never sit quietly with. So the next time you're stirred inside and you feel that urge to speak, ask yourself, do I truly understand what I'm feeling right now? Have I listened deeply enough to myself to speak from a place of truth, not reaction? And if the answer is no, then breathe. Be silent. Be kind with yourself in that space. Let the silence do its work, because silence is not just the absence of sound, it's the presence of self-awareness. It's where your deeper self can rise, without pressure, without noise, without fear. You don't have to prove anything to anyone when you're in that space. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're becoming. And every time you choose silence to understand yourself more deeply, you're choosing growth over ego. You're choosing depth over speed. You're choosing to build a life that is not just heard, but truly felt. This isn't about staying silent forever. It's about knowing when to speak, and making sure that when you do, your words are rooted in who you really are. Let your silence be your sanctuary. Let it guide you back home to yourself, because when you finally understand your own heart, your voice becomes a gift, not a weapon. And that, my friend, is the kind of power the world needs more of. Lesson 2. Stay silent. When you're tempted to gossip, it starts small. A passing comment, a raised eyebrow, a story whispered behind someone's back. And for a moment, it feels good. It feels like you're in control, like you know something others don't. But deep inside, you feel the weight, the kind of weight that clings to your conscience long after the laughter fades. You know what I'm talking about. You've felt it too, that quiet hesitation right before you speak about someone who isn't in the room. That small voice inside saying, "This isn't who I want to be." That's the moment you should listen to. That's the moment to stay silent. Gossip never lifts you higher. It only brings you down slowly, by making you believe that someone else's flaws make you more worthy. But your worth has nothing to do with their mistakes, and your integrity isn't measured by how clever your words are, but by how kind your silence can be. You don't need to prove your loyalty to anyone by tearing someone else apart. You don't need to participate just because others expect you to laugh or agree. You have the power to excuse yourself, not just physically, but emotionally, to walk away from the noise and choose peace instead. There's something deeply noble about choosing silence in a moment of temptation, especially when the room is full of whispers, when staying silent makes you the odd one out, when not joining in makes you feel alone. But here's the thing. You're not alone. You're just walking a higher path. A quieter one that leaves your heart cleaner when the day ends. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." He didn't say to criticize, to mock, to spread rumors. You were made for more than that. Think about this. Every time you speak about someone else, you're telling the world more about you than about them. You're revealing your own heart. your own values, your own self-discipline. So the next time you're tempted to repeat that juicy detail, pause. Ask yourself, why do I feel the need to share this? Is it because you want to connect? To feel important? To be liked? There are better ways to do that. You can build connection without breaking trust. You can be interesting without being harmful. You can be honest, but still kind. When you choose silence instead of gossip, you're not being weak. You're being wise. You're choosing strength over cheap attention, and the strength to stay silent often speaks louder than anything you could say. Because silence in that moment is not emptiness, it is presence, it is self-respect. It is a quiet reminder that your words carry weight, and you refuse to use them to hurt. One day, someone will gossip about you, and you'll hope that someone else in that room chooses silence. Be that person now for others and for yourself. Your voice is powerful. Use it to lift, not to lower. Use it to build trust, not to destroy it. So the next time the urge rises and you feel that temptation bubbling just beneath the surface, remember who you are. You're not a messenger of rumors. You're a keeper of your own peace, and in that silence, you rise above it all. Lesson 3. Stay silent. When you're burning with anger, you've felt it. That surge of heat rising up your chest, your hands clench, your voice wants to rise. Every part of you is screaming to speak, to release the pressure, to say what you think they deserve to hear. But right there, in that fire, is your moment of choice, because anger is loud. It doesn't whisper, it roars. It convinces you that you must act now, that you'll feel better if you say it, slam the door, send the message. But you've been there before. You've watched the damage unfold after your words burned too hot. You've felt the weight of regret settle in once the flame calmed. You don't need to silence your anger forever, but you need to pause before it speaks for you, because your anger is not you. It's a storm that passes through your body, not your identity. And when you let it control your voice, you hand over your power. Silence in those moments is not suppression. It's protection. It's a choice to hold back the arrow before it's released, because once it flies, it doesn't return. You may say, "But I was just being honest." And yes, honesty is important, but truth spoken in rage loses its clarity. It becomes a weapon, not a bridge. When you stay silent while angry, you're giving yourself space. Space to understand what's really going on inside you. Is it really about them? Or is it about something deeper, something you haven't yet named? Silence gives you that clarity. Think of it this way. When you speak in anger, you're not just hurting them. You're training your own mind to believe that every fire must be thrown, not tended. You're telling yourself that emotions rule you, not that you rule them. But you're capable of more, much more. Imagine yourself walking away, not as an act of weakness, but of power. Breathing, feeling everything, but choosing to say nothing for now. That moment of restraint, that is strength most people never talk about. That's the discipline of someone who values peace over pride. Seneca, one of the great Stoics, said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." He didn't mean you never speak. He meant You wait until the fire cools, and then you speak from reason, not from rage. You are not your temper. You are not the heat that rises when you're wounded. You are the stillness beneath that, the calm center waiting to be remembered. So the next time anger grips you, before you send that message, before you shout that reply, stop. Go silent. Breathe through the storm. Your silence in that moment is not defeat. It's dignity, it's self-mastery. It's proof that you're not just reacting, you're evolving. There's a quiet power in the person who can feel everything and still choose stillness. That person is you. You are capable of rising above the fire and speaking only when your words will heal, not harm. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. And clarity only comes after the silence. So trust it. Trust that the moment you hold back is not the moment you lose, but the moment you truly begin to lead. Lesson 4. Stay silent. When you're unsure of the truth, there's a quiet kind of courage in admitting, I don't know yet. Not everyone has it. But you do. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is say nothing at all until truth becomes clear. You live in a world that pressures you to speak, to have an opinion, to react, to join the noise before you've had time to think. But in that rush, something gets lost: clarity, integrity, and often your peace. You don't need to fill silence with assumptions. You don't need to repeat what someone else said or echo the loudest voice in the room. Because when you speak without truth, you speak without weight. Your words become fragile. They scatter instead of standing. But you're not here to echo. You're here to understand, to listen deeper, to wait, not out of fear, but out of respect. Respect for truth, respect for your own mind, and for the minds of others. There will be moments when someone asks your thoughts, and you feel the pressure to answer, even when something inside you says, I'm not sure. In those moments, remember this: uncertainty is not weakness. It's honesty in its purest form. And when you stay silent in uncertainty, you protect something sacred, your credibility. It's tempting to jump in, to offer a guess, a story, a defense. But truth doesn't need to be rushed. It asks for patience. It often lives beneath the surface, waiting for someone who's willing to dig deeper, not shout louder. And that someone is you. You're the one who doesn't speak just to be heard. You speak to bring light, to make things clearer, not cloudier. So when facts are blurred, when the full picture hasn't yet formed, your silence is wisdom, not absence. It's in that pause that your mind gathers what matters. You observe, you ask, you think. And when you finally speak, it's not from assumption, it's from understanding. And that's the kind of voice the world truly needs. The Stoics believe that what we say should be both true and necessary, not just correct, but helpful. So if what you're about to say is built on doubt, suspicion, or second-hand stories, pause. Protect your voice from being used too quickly. Let it be used with intention. Truth doesn't rush. And neither should you. There's a deep kind of self-respect in waiting to speak until your words are rooted in reality, until your heart is clear, until your knowledge is whole. Because when you finally do speak, what you say will carry the quiet power of someone who chose not to speak too soon. So hold the space. Let silence be your strength, and trust that by honoring what you do not yet know, you are growing into someone who will one day speak with unshakable clarity. You don't need to have the answer right away. You just need to have the courage to wait for it. Lesson 5. Stay silent. When you know the timing is wrong, you can feel it, can't you? That quiet whisper inside that says, "Not now." It's not fear. It's wisdom, and you've learned over time to trust it. There's a truth you carry, a thought, a feeling, maybe even something that's been sitting in your heart for days or years, waiting to be spoken. But sometimes, the power of your words has less to do with what you say, and everything to do with when you say it. You've seen what happens when people speak too soon. Their words miss the mark. Their message gets lost, because timing is everything, and not every moment is meant to be filled. When the person in front of you is still hurting, when emotions are too raw, too loud, when the space between you hasn't softened yet, you sense it. You know deep down that now is not the time to teach, to correct, to confess, or to explain. That's not weakness. That's emotional precision. That's the strength of someone who values connection more than being right. Someone who doesn't let urgency overpower wisdom. You have that power. You have the presence to feel the rhythm of a moment and to pause, to wait, not because you're unsure, but because you understand. You understand that words spoken at the wrong time can build walls instead of bridges. That even truth, when forced, can become a blade instead of a balm. So, you hold your words gently. You carry them with care. You wait for the moment when they will not only be heard, but received. Because your goal is not to prove, but to connect. Not to dominate, but to heal. And that takes more than boldness. It takes restraint. Stoic wisdom teaches you that not every impulse is worth acting on. Just because you feel something urgently doesn't mean the world is ready to receive it. And sometimes, the most loving, most powerful choice you can make is to say nothing at all. You give the moment room to breathe. You let silence do its quiet work. You let time soften the sharp edges of emotion. And when the space is ready, when hearts are open and your presence is steady, then and only then you speak. And when you do, your words will land with gravity. They will be felt, not just heard, because they were born not out of impulse, but intention. You're not here to win every moment. You're here to live with depth, to honor the weight of your thoughts by waiting for the right moment to share them. That's not silence born of fear. It's silence born of strength. So if today you're holding something inside and everything in you wants to let it out, pause. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Look at the person in front of you. Ask yourself gently, will this land in love, or will it be lost in noise? And if your answer isn't clear, that's okay. You don't have to speak yet. Let time be your ally. Let timing become your wisdom. You're not running out of moments. You're simply waiting for the one that matters most. Lesson 6. Stay silent. when someone else is speaking. You may feel it stir inside you, that impulse to respond, to interrupt, to offer your side, your truth, your insight. But in that moment, something greater is being asked of you, not your voice, but your silence. Not the silence of distance, but the silence of presence. When someone else is speaking, they are offering a piece of themselves. Maybe it's clumsy, maybe it's emotional, messy, unfiltered. But it's theirs, and it takes courage for someone to open their heart in front of another human being. And here you are, the witness, the listener, the one who holds the space. You have more power than you realize in that moment. Because real listening is not passive. It is not waiting for your turn to speak. It is giving someone the rare gift of being heard without judgment, without rushing, without needing to fix or reshape their story. Your silence tells them, you matter. It says, I see you. I'm not trying to control this moment. I'm simply here with you, and that is no small thing. You don't lose your voice by staying silent. You strengthen it, because every time you choose to truly listen, your own words, when they come, will carry deeper meaning. They will rise not from the noise of reaction, but from the quiet of reflection. Sometimes, people speak not to be corrected, but to be comforted. Not to be challenged, but to be understood. And when you hold your words and open your presence, you give them the dignity of feeling seen in their full humanity. You've experienced this too, haven't you? Moments when all you wanted was for someone to simply listen, not to teach, not to advise, but to sit beside your story without rushing to rewrite it. You remember how rare that was, how healing it felt, how strong the connection became. Now you can be that for someone else. Stoic wisdom isn't just about restraint, it's about clarity. And clarity often begins in silence. When you let someone speak fully, you begin to see not just their words, but their world. You start to understand where the pain lives, where the fear hides, where the longing still lingers. And in that understanding, your heart softens, your presence deepens, and something beautiful unfolds. Trust. When it's your turn to speak, you'll know. You won't need to fight for space or rush to be heard. Because those who are truly present are felt before they are even heard. And when you speak from that place, people will listen. So the next time you feel the urge to interrupt, to explain, to counter, pause. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to offer silence as a form of love? You don't need to always have the last word. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can offer is your presence. Still, open, unhurried. And in that silence, something sacred happens. Two human beings meet, not in argument but in understanding. And you, just by listening, just by staying silent when someone else is speaking, you become a space where healing begins. Lesson 7. Stay silent. When you're reflecting on what matters, there is a kind of silence that doesn't come from emptiness. It comes from depth. When you take a step back from the noise of life, when you withdraw, not out of avoidance but out of intention, you enter a space where your heart can breathe again. This is where your clarity lives. This is where what truly matters begins to rise to the surface. You've felt it before, haven't you? That quiet ache that tells you you've been moving too fast. that you've been talking, responding, reacting, but not really listening to your own life. And in those moments, silence becomes sacred. Not the kind of silence that isolates, but the kind that invites you back to yourself. The kind that lets you sit with your questions, not to rush toward answers, but to feel which ones are worth asking in the first place. You don't need to explain this silence to anyone. You don't need to post about it, justify it, or turn it into a performance. It is yours. A private conversation between your soul and the truth that's been waiting beneath all the noise. It's okay to disappear for a little while, to say less, to pull back, to sit in the quiet and simply feel what's been buried under busy days and full schedules. This is not retreat. This is reconnection. Because when you slow down enough to hear your inner world, you begin to see what you've been ignoring, what you've been chasing, and what you've been quietly longing for, even if you couldn't name it. You don't need every answer today. You don't need to fix everything right now. You just need to give yourself permission to reflect, without judgment, without pressure, without filling the space with noise just to avoid the stillness. Because here's the truth: stillness is where wisdom grows. When you dare to sit with your life in silence, you begin to understand your own patterns. The things you say yes to out of fear, the things you stay silent about that should be voiced, and the places where you've abandoned your own peace just to be accepted by others. But in this quiet space of reflection, you start remembering who you really are, beneath the expectations, beneath the roles, beneath the noise. And once you see it, once you feel that returning, your silence becomes a source of strength, not a retreat from the world, but a way of moving through it with deeper purpose, with grounded presence. So if you're in a season where you're not speaking much, if you're withdrawing a bit, choosing quiet over constant communication, know this: you are not losing yourself. You are finding your way back. Stay silent when you're reflecting on what matters. Let that silence shape you. Let it show you what is worth holding on to and what it's time to finally let go of. Because from this silence, your next chapter will rise, not rushed, but rooted, not loud, but real, and ready. Conclusion: silence in its truest form isn't empty. It's a powerful force that brings clarity, peace, and understanding. When you choose silence at the right moments, you allow yourself the space to reflect, to grow, and to connect with what truly matters. It's in these quiet moments that the most profound wisdom emerges. So, remember, the next time you feel the urge to speak, ask yourself, does this moment call for words, or does it call for stillness? Embrace the quiet, and trust that the answers you seek will come when the time is right. If this resonated with you, take a moment to pause and reflect on your own journey. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly embraced silence? What have you been missing in the noise of your everyday life? If you found value in today's lesson, please like, comment, and share this video with others who may need this reminder. And don't forget to subscribe to the Stoic Philosophy for more insights on living a mindful, purpose-driven life. Take a deep breath, stay silent when it matters, and trust that your wisdom is within you, waiting to be discovered.